Hi everyone, thanks for joining us. So today's session is number 2 in our 20-part Dapt mini series. Today we're focusing on top tips for OneDrive to help you be more productive and get the most out of the platform. We've got a slide at the end, so we've got 20 sessions in this series. We've got a slide at the end detailing the full series. It includes introductions and top tips to 20 separate applications within Microsoft 365 to help you get the most out of the platform and unlock its full potential. There's some apps in there that you may not be that familiar with, so definitely worth checking out. So on to introductions. My name's Dan. I've been working in a technical background for best part of about 20 years. Found my way into consultancy, and I've got a passion for all things Microsoft 365. So I've been helping people get the most out of the platform, unlocking some great features and helping people drive adoption across the platform as a consultant for the past 10 years or so.
Cheers, Dan. And hi, everyone. My name is Stephen Port. I'm also one of the co-founders and director at Dapt. Like Dan, I've been working in various roles in Microsoft 365 for around about 10 to 12 years now. And I'll be running the session today on OneDrive for Business. Okay, so just getting started, a quick cover of the agenda today. So we'll have a quick look at OneDrive for Business from a very high level, just really understand what it's all about. And then we'll jump into sharing. So, how do we share content effectively? How do we manage access to the things that we've shared? Once we have shared, we'll look at some of the collaboration options as well. So the ability for us to be able to collaborate effectively with our colleagues. We'll also then look at the sync of OneDrive for Business, so the sync client. So this is effectively where we can make sure we never lose access to our files. We've got files on demand. We can make sure that if we ever lose connectivity, those important files that we need to continue working on are effectively available for us to use. And then lastly, we'll wrap up with a little look at the mobile client of OneDrive for Business. So, you can download this on your iPhone or your Android phone. And we'll just look at some of the features that you get in addition to the OneDrive for Business client on your desktop or in the web. So without further ado, let's have a look at OneDrive for Business. So let's just jump over to my new screen. So you're probably very familiar with OneDrive for Business. If you're using this or SharePoint, you'll be quite experienced with, that sort of classic document library look and feel. So really sort of a nice way for us to be able to view our files, view our folders, all of that sort of great stuff. So to start, let's have a look down this left-hand side. So some of the blades that we've got on the left-hand side of OneDrive for Business. To start, we'll see my files. So this is essentially my OneDrive for Business. This is where I can store my personal business files at Dapt UK. We can organize this in various different ways. Again, I've got my folders and files set up there, and I've got some metadata against those files and folders as well, just to show what they are. I've also got the option to jump into my recent view. So this shows me what I've recently shared or what's been shared with me. So I can quite quickly see, the latest documents that I need to work on. So again, it groups it by today, yesterday, things I've looked at this week, all that sort of great stuff as I would need to. If we jump over across to shared, what I have here is two options really to view the content. So the first one is what's been shared with me. So this is things that have been shared by, for example, Daniel, my other colleagues, for example, and also what's popular around me based on what I have access to. So it also gives me some information of other documents I may have access to. I can also jump over to the shared by me view, and this is a really good way just to really keep on top of what I've actually shared as well. So you can see here I've shared 3 folders. I've also got the options to select each individual file and to manage access, do things like that should I want to revoke access to specific files as well. So really quite useful. I've also got the recycle bin. So you can see here we've got lots of content in here. Now the great thing about OneDrive for Business is I have control over my own recycle bin. So if I've deleted a file from my OneDrive for Business, I've got the option to claim that back by restoring it. Again, the amount of time those files reside in my recycle bin is around 90 days. And if I go right down to the bottom, I've got quite a few things in here that I've been deleting, but I also have a second stage recycle bin. So if I do delete something from the recycle bin, I can still recover it for that period of time from my second stage recycle bin. So you've got that safety net in terms of being able to recover content from there. And a very simple really way to add that content back. So if I just jump up to the top again, I can select a file and I can click on restore, and I'll restore that item back into my OneDrive for Business. So really sort of some useful stuff there. Some of the other stuff we'll see down here is some quick access as well. So what you'll notice is these aren't actually OneDrive for Business folders or files. These are actually sites that sit within our tenants. So for example, if I go to Coffee Express as an example, I can quickly jump into the view from my OneDrive for Business of the documents folder within that Microsoft team, for example. So again, I don't have to go into the team if I didn't want to access these files. I can actually view them from OneDrive for Business, which is really useful. One of the other great things I can do from here, again, is I can actually add that shortcut to my file. So if I wanted to bring that folder, that entire folder structure from my team into OneDrive for Business into my files area, I can click onto that and that will actually add it into my files as well. So if I just jump back to here, you can see here that I've got the Coffee Express documents, and the little folder icon has just got a slightly different link on there than the other folders. So that shows that that's a linked file to that Microsoft team. So I can dive into there, view the different sort of folders that are part of the channels. I can drill down and get that content quite easily. So a really good way of finding content for my teams, all from my OneDrive for Business client. Again, some of the other stuff that you can do within here, as we've seen, the typical sort of document library features that we would expect. I can create new documents from within here. I can also upload documents, so files or folders from my computer. I can share, I can copy links and then use those links to share out information. I can sync using the sync client, download, export to Excel, and I can also, add some additional features and functionality using things such as Power Apps, or if I wanted to Power Automate, so I can actually do some automation as well. We won't go into those today. We've got some other sessions that will be focusing on a lot of that stuff as well. Okay, so some of the other stuff that you may not know about within OneDrive for Business, if we're just looking at the client, are the OneDrive for Business settings. So some of the stuff I can do in here is I can actually manage what notifications I get from OneDrive for Business. Now, this is really useful. I may want to receive reminders for example, missed sharing emails, all the way down to, sort of email notifications when others upload files to my file request. So this is if I'm creating a file request location, users can upload files there. I can also go to more settings within here, and I can do things such as run sharing reports, so quite quick and easy to do. I've actually created a folder called sharing reports here, so I can go into there and I can save that sharing report, and that will give me an Excel file with all of my files that have been shared. So a nice way for me to quickly understand what's been shared in my OneDrive for Business. I can also review things such as my access requests and invitations. So, for example, if I've shared a file with someone, say, for example, Dan, as a view-only file, Dan may want to be able to pass that file on to someone else. Now, in OneDrive for Business, I want to make sure I remain in control of what's being shared for my personal business storage. So what I'll get here is I'll see that Daniel has sent me a request. I can jump into those access requests and I can either approve or decline that sharing invitation that Daniel has forwarded on to one of his colleagues. So I can actually decide whether I want Jack, for example, to be able to access that content that Daniel shared on my behalf. So I can click approve to that, and then that will just approve that item in there. Again, really easy to get back. If I want to go back to OneDrive for Business, I just click on the OneDrive up here, and that will take me straight back into my main view. So really sort of quick and easy to navigate around. Okay, so some of the stuff we've looked at there really is just a quick overview of the OneDrive for Business area. We've looked at all of those different elements that we have. Again, we still have the option to run things like Power Automate or to sync that down, as well as looking at using the sync client. But for now, we're going to have a look at sharing. So how do we effectively share in OneDrive for Business? And this really works in the same way as we would do in SharePoint. So I can select a file within my OneDrive for Business. I can click on the sharing icon just there. And now I've got a couple of different options on how I can share my files and folders. So the default link sharing option, which is set by the organization, will always come up first. So at Dapt, we've got it saying set to specific people. But if I wanted to, I could change the way that I share those files and folders in my OneDrive for Business. So anyone with the link This is usually disabled by most organizations to avoid anonymous link sharing, but if it was turned on, you could share that, send it out to someone, they could forward that email or that link on to someone else, and then they would be able to access that content as well. But if it is disabled by your organization, it will be grayed out, as you can see here. Another type of link that we have is people in Dapt workspaces with the link. So again, I can create this link, the sharing link, send it to Daniel, and if he forwards that on, anyone in our domain would be able to access that content from that link. So it's basically like a wider sharing, gives more flexibility around how I want to share. I can also share with people with existing access. So if I choose this one, for example, and select apply, and I type in Daniel to that one, just there, what I'll get there is it will say to me that the recipient I've entered doesn't have access or permissions to this item, so he's not going to be able to use that link. I can't use that link to send it to Daniel because he doesn't have access, so I've got to choose a different one. Again, that's a really nice way. You may want to use that just to remind people that they've got access to the file. If you're having discussions with them on a meeting, for example, you may want to just send them another link to that file without having to go through the whole sharing link option again. So I'm just going to remove Daniel from that one because he doesn't have access. So I'm actually going to choose the specific people link. And what I have here is some additional settings. So I may want to invite Daniel to be able to edit that document. I may also want to choose for him to open it in review mode only first. So that's when he opens the document, he can add comments, all of those sorts of great things into the document, collaborate with me, but it opens first in that review mode. Now, this is really useful if I'm asking him to just check the document. I don't want him to necessarily make any changes. I can use this mode first. So again, to select that on or off. If I turn off allow editing, I've got a slightly different option. So this will send a sharing request to Daniel in view only mode. So you can only open a document to view it. But I may also want to block him from downloading that document. So he can only open it in the web client. He won't be able to download that document or, to save it as or anything else. He's just got that view of that document. So again, a great way just to get people to review those documents as well. For this one though, I'm just going to allow editing. I'll just click apply to that, and you'll notice here that I've got the little pen icon has changed from read only to edit, and I can just choose Daniel from here as well. So I can choose Daniel Fowl. I can drop him a quick message about what I'm sharing with him. So I can say, please view and make changes. And then I can just click on the send button, and that will send an email to Daniel with the sharing link. Really simple way to collaborate there. But if I wanted to, I could also copy that link. So this creates a link that I can copy, and I can use that link in an email, for example, for him to use. Or if I decided to use the other option, I could send it as an email, and that will open up my email client, and then I can really format the email how I want to provide that additional information in there as well. Okay, so once Daniel has received that file, we may want to jump into that file together and to collaborate on it. So I can jump into here. This is one we shared earlier, which is the marketing ideas for Lorem Ipsum. So again, for my OneDrive for Business, I just click on the file. It opens up in the web browser as well. When I jump into here, I can see a few things such as catch up, Daniel's little icons in there, and it shows me where he's at. So I can scroll down to page 2, and I can see that Daniel's typing away, updating the document, and I can also select various areas and continue to work in a collaborative way. So again, really useful if we're having a one-to-one chat in Microsoft Teams, for example. I can send Daniel this document. He can start working on it. We have a quick Teams call. We both jump into the document and start working on it together. So a really good way of collaborating with sort of individuals or groups of people using OneDrive for Business in that manner. Okay, and then once I'm done, again, because it is in OneDrive for Business, which is in the cloud, and unlike my desktop or a file share, for example, it's automatically saving as I make the changes. So I don't actually have a save button, is one of the things you'll notice. All I need to do is once I've finished with my changes is I just come out of that, and that document is now saved in my OneDrive for Business, ready for me to have that one version of the truth for me to use. So really useful sort of document there. Again, once I've done that, I may decide, actually, thanks, Dan, you've helped me complete my tender process, but I no longer want you to have access to this document. I may want to go through and manage the permissions on that item as well. So over here, I can open up my information panel. I can actually preview that document as well, so I can actually see where Dan's been typing in. And I can also manage the access of that document as well. So I can go into here, and I've got a couple of options on how I can stop providing access to this item in my OneDrive for Business area. So one of the first ones you'll see at the top here is stop sharing. So that just basically removes all access to that document. It's like a blanket removal of access. The other option I have is to review the links that I'm sharing with. So I may say, actually, I've allowed Daniel to edit that link, but now I actually want to change that to a read-only. So he can no longer make any changes to that document. So I can actually change that link without having to, reshare with Daniel. It just changes his permissions for that document as well. Again, if I really wanted to, and I wanted to go back to manage access, I could also give direct access to people. But in this instance, I may want to click on stop sharing, and that will just stop sharing that document with Daniel. And going forward from that point, that file is now just available for myself. So when I refresh, that will then go to private, as you can see there. So that's now no longer shared with anyone else in my organization. Okay, so we've shown how we can look at OneDrive for Business, how we can share documents and collaborate on those documents. But next, I may want to be able to sync those documents down to, for example, my local file share. So one of the first things I can do up here is I've got the sync option up here. And what that will actually do is that will basically provide me with a file share, or in my Windows Explorer, a view of my OneDrive for Business documents all within one place. There's a couple of different things we've got within here. So first of all, the linked document location from the Microsoft Teams team site, as I mentioned earlier, is actually on there with that little link icon showing. It doesn't sit within my OneDrive for Business, but I've got a link to it. So again, really useful for me to be able to quickly jump into there, go into marketing, for example, and access those files without the need to have to go into the team and try and navigate my way around as need to. The other stuff that you'll see as well, against each of the different files we've got here, we have different icons. So we've got a little cloud icon. We've also got a tick that's in a white box or a white circle, a green tick in a white circle. We've also got a sort of filled in tick as well. And these all mean slightly different things based on how I'm syncing down that information and that content to my OneDrive for Sync client. So anything with a cloud basically is saying it's remaining in the cloud. So it's not actually physically sitting on my device. I need access to the internet to get into that location. So I'm going to have internet connectivity to get there. What I've got here, for example, this one, which is DryLav, that basically means that it's on my device, but it's not something I'm always keeping. So as I'm working on that file, it will download it, but then I can always push it back to the cloud if I need to, or as I close that file down, that will go back to the cloud and sync back up. So again, it's offline access availability, but it's something that I'm going to have to actively manage because it's not something I want to actively keep on my machine. Whereas unlike for this one, I've actually got that green tick. This is something I'm always keeping on my device. So I always want it to be synced. So as soon as I've got internet connectivity, I want that to be available all the time. If I lose connectivity, it's just there for me no matter what. It's always there for me through my sync client. And to be able to manage that if I wanted to, I can also free up the space. So if I right click on the document or the folder, I can see there that it says always keep on this device. But if I click on free up space, what will happen is that will push that back to the cloud, and that's now no longer directly synced with my machine. So it's now a cloud version of that document. So again, I need access to the internet to be able to open that again now. So a really useful way to, if you're on the train, you're traveling, have a think about some of the files that you're going to be wanting to take, and maybe make sure you keep those on your devices as well. So really sort of important from there. Okay, so that's looking at the sync client. So one of the things we're going to look at now is the mobile phone client. So just bear with me while I switch over to my mobile phone. I'm just going to share my phone screen with you all. There we go. So just using one of my other accounts there. And I'm going to jump straight into my OneDrive for Business. So you can see here, I've got my mobile phone. I've got a couple of different options in my OneDrive for Business mobile app. I've got the ability to search across files and folders. I can also see my recent files, and I can also see my shared libraries. So a really good way for me to quickly access content that I need to. I can also see any offline files as well. So any files that I want to sync down to my device, these are all my offline files there as well. Again, if I tap onto the Files tab, you can see there I've got the same view, the same sort of icons across there on my phone. It's just basically showing that I've got a Coffee Express documents synced from the Microsoft team, plus all of the other information I've got there. Also, I've got the access to my recycle bin within my files too. I can also jump across to shared, so I can see what's shared with me. I can see what I'm sharing as well, all from one place. and I can also browse various libraries. So if I want to jump into, for example, other companies or other Microsoft Teams, I can quickly jump into those shared libraries as well. So if we, maybe wanted to jump into the hub, for example, I can go into there very quickly. So just going back to the phone main screen, one of the other things that we'll get as well within here is the ability to take pictures of our documents. So you're going to see my lovely messy desk now. And as I move across, you can see there that I've got some terms and conditions document that I want to scan in. So I'm just going to go and select that. And what that will do is, even though that's laid out on my sort of desktop flat, you can see there it's found that document, it's recognized it as a document, and I can say then confirm that. If I wanted to, I could adjust the border as well, but I'm just going to click on confirm. That's going to process that document now, and that's going to turn it into a PDF sort of visible format. It's a bit creased, it's been in my drawer, but you can see the idea that that's there for me. I can also do various other things. So if I wanted to, I can do markup on it. I can add ink, text, and I can rotate it, crop it, add filters, or add more imagery to that file as well. But for now, I'm quite happy with that. I'm just going to go to done. And it's going to ask me where I'd like to save this as well. So I can go into my files. I'm going to say I want that to stay there. I can decide what I would like to call this. So I'm going to call this file Top Tips for OneDrive for Business. It gives me the date and timestamp. But if I wanted to, I could call this something call this something else as well. So for example, I may want to call this Terms and Conditions. Once I've done that, I just click on the little tick. And that will then just upload that terms and conditions document directly into my OneDrive for Business. So now, as you can see, if I just switch back over to my desktop, what you'll notice there straight away is that document is now in there ready for me to share as I need to. So again, no matter where I am, I can really easily jump across to various different devices. It's all synced up, it all works together, and it's really sort of powerful. Again, even if I jump over to my desktop, you can see there that document, that PDF is now in there as well. So I've got the ability to be out and about, take scans, pictures of documents, whiteboards if I'm in a meeting, and save all of that information to my OneDrive for Business, which is really super effective. Okay, so what are some of those top tips that we need to be thinking about when we're using OneDrive for Business? So one of the first things is it's quite easy to get yourself into a bit of a mess using OneDrive for Business if you don't keep it up to date. So just have a review of your OneDrive for Business area, plan your folder structures, think about how you work as an individual within your organization, and just structure it in a way that makes sense to you so you can easily jump into the areas that you want to. Again, it just helps as things sort of start to grow and as you start to save more content in there, that's going to be really useful. The next thing, again, being is tidy up. So if you don't need access to that file anymore, or it's moved to a team, have a think about tidying that up as well. So one of the things we can do, if we just jump back to the area, is if, for example, this document, the marketing ideas, no longer needs to remain in my OneDrive Business, I want to move that to the marketing team, I can actually move that document and tidy up my structure as well. So I may decide I actually want to go and move that to Coffee Express and into the marketing folder, and I can move that there as well. So again, a great way for me to move content in and around SharePoint team sites and my OneDrive for Business. So that's just going to move across for me. There we go. Again, we can also look at important PC folders. So there's a concept in OneDrive for Business called known folders. And what that actually does is it will turn my desktop, my documents and my pictures into OneDrive for Business synced folders. So again, a really useful way that if I'm storing, documents on my desktop, bad practice, I still do it myself a little bit. It will actually have that location as a OneDrive for Business synced location. That means that even if my machine breaks down, even if I log on to another computer, for example, I can access my desktop from any device that I want to. So again, a really useful way for me to be able to find content no matter where I am, what device I'm working on. Lastly as well is just checking your local storage. So when I'm syncing everything down to my device, if I'm keeping it on my device, that will actually use up my local storage on my machine. So one of the things I want to think about is, do I actually need to store this document on my machine anymore, or shall I push it back to the cloud? So when I'm going from my OneDrive for Business sync client on my machine, just have a think about, which files I actually need, push stuff back up to the cloud as I need to, and just think about that sort of files on demand. Do I need to have stuff on my machine all the time? Okay, so just some very high-level top tips there. OneDrive for Business is just one part of Microsoft 365. So as part of the next series, I'll pass back over to Dan, who's going to give you a little bit of a wrap-up. But hopefully you found some of those tips useful, and I'll speak to you soon.
Yeah, thanks, Steve. That's a great demo. Yeah, so we're really keen for you to get in touch with us. So we hope you found today's session useful and you got some good tips out of it. We love to hear feedback, good or constructive. So if you've got a moment, feel free to scan the QR code at the bottom of your phones. And we've got a quick Microsoft form there asking for some feedback. At the end of the series, we'll be entering anyone who's provided feedback into a prize draw. So definitely worth giving it a go. Also, make sure you follow us on our social media platforms. So check out our website. We also post content on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, and YouTube as well. So lots of material to follow. So yeah, check us out. We're constantly posting material. So yeah, just wanted to introduce quickly the next session as well. So the next session is going to be on staying organized with Microsoft To Do. So this is a great app. I think it's sometimes overlooked. So join us to get some tips and tricks on that as well. And actually, we're posting up the full schedule here just so you can see all of the upcoming events we've got going on. There's some really interesting sessions coming up. Some popular apps that you're going to know really well, like Word, PowerPoint, SharePoint, but hopefully we'll give you some kind of hidden tips and tricks in there. But there's a few apps on here I think you may not know quite as well. So things like Microsoft Bookings, Kaizala is a really interesting one, and we'll be covering those off as well. So definitely check out the rest of the sessions. Hope you found this one useful, and we look forward to seeing you on the next one.